Cyclonus, the warrior, and his armada.
Hi, this is Simon Canlish and welcome to another marvelous video. Cyclonus is a Decepticon that is the result of Unicorn's interference in resurrecting Megatron and a bunch of other fallen Decepticons. Upon his resurrection, Galvatron is aided by Cyclonus and Scourge. They are his second-in-command and obey his every ruling. Cyclonus is shown to be one of the most loyal Decepticons that has ever lived. It is a common theme for high-ranking Decepticon Transformers to attempt to usurp their commander and take the leadership of their faction into their own hands. Even though a mighty warrior in his own right, Cyclonus has never attempted to overthrow Galvatron's rule and serves him with dignity. He is a mindful, strategic, and powerful enforcer who ensures that Galvatron's will is fulfilled. Before we go on to our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin.
Spend your shots freely, Autobots. You are shooting in vain.
Who is Cyclonus? An introduction to this loyal Decepticon. Cyclonus is the second-in-command under the leadership of Galvatron. His loyalties lie with the Decepticons, and he is willing to do anything in hopes of serving his faction. His dedication and intensity to serve Galvatron is often depicted through his actions. It is a rare occurrence for a Decepticon to be extremely loyal and devoted to working under his leader without question. Cyclonus is a mastermind when it comes to warfare, and he possesses insane destructive capabilities. He has played a significant role as Galvatron's subordinate, consistently instilling fear in the hearts of the Autobots, who have never been able to take him down in one-on-one fights. It is only during confrontations with the leaders of the Autobots that Cyclonus fails to deliver, and even then, he has been the reason for Galvatron's survival multiple times. So let's look now at Cyclonus in the lore in comics, at the animated series, and of course the movie. Exploring his extensive role in Marvel Comics. Cyclonus in the Marvel Comics continuity was also a creation of Unicron. He was reconstructed from the body of another Decepticon who was out of service. This out-of-service Decepticon remains unknown to this day, although it has been speculated about heavily. Cyclonus played the role of Galvatron's second-in-command and was one of the most formidable warriors on the battlefield. After the events of Unicron's triumph and subsequent consumption of Cybertron's moons, Cyclonus, accompanied by Galvatron and Scourge, created a plan which would free them from Unicron's control. They decided that they would travel back in time 20 years to 1986 and use their knowledge to construct a cannon that would be capable enough of eradicating Unicron upon impact. Although the idea of Transformer weaponry being competent enough to destroy Unicron was never explored further in this storyline. Unicron himself confirmed that the cannon would have been able to defeat him. After traveling back in time, Galvatron seized control of the available Decepticons from his former self, Megatron, and buried him and Soundwave under debris. He then started the construction of the Mega Cannon, which he planned on firing at the present time, which was 2006. Galvatron and Cyclonus and Scourge's use of the time travel device inadvertently caused Optimus Prime, Ratchet, and Prowl to be superseded to a holding dimension as well. The remaining Autobots realized that Galvatron was to be blamed for their leader's disappearance. Autobot resistance leader Emerald Zaran sent Ultra Magnus to Earth to investigate. On Earth, Galvatron and Cyclonus proved to be too formidable and made quick work of the Autobots after luring them in. In return for a temporary alliance, Megatron was then aided in his escape by the Autobots. Meanwhile, in 2006, Unicron got a note of the strings that Galvatron was pulling. He sent 3 Decepticons to sabotage his plans. Siding with Ultra Magnus, the Decepticons from the future used a remotely controlled skywarp to destroy Galvatron's weapon while disguised as Starscream. Galvatron then destroyed the fake Starscream and realized that he had been shifted into a temporal paradox. This was because he knew that Starscream was destined to die in 2006 and not 1986. Believing himself to be in another dimension, Galvatron abandoned his plan and returned back to the present time, and all 3 got punished by Unicron. After returning to their own timeline, Cyclonus continued to serve Galvatron as his personal transport, alongside the support of Scourge. Soon, the Decepticons were free from Unicron's control, as Rodimus Prime and the Matrix destroyed him. Following this, Galvatron left Soundwave as the senior and transported himself back in time to 1987, without the company of Cyclonus and Scourge. During this time, the two were being hunted by Death's Head, a peacekeeping bounty bounty hunter. Death's Head was actually seeking Galvatron, but Cyclonus informed him of his whereabouts. Soundwave then took the opportunity and hired Death's Head to hunt down Rodimus Prime instead. Cyclonus and Scourge figured out that this would be the perfect time for them to prove their worth and regain the pedestal of leaders in the eyes of the Decepticons by executing Rodimus Prime first. Their actions were not taken lightly by Death's Head, whose work was interrupted due to their shenanigans. Later, Rodimus Prime hired Death's Head to assassinate Cyclonus and Scourge instead. To do so, he followed them to Planet of Junk. Unbeknownst to them, Unicron was still alive, and its severed head had landed on this planet. Unicron was using the Junkians to create a new body for himself. Knowing this, he started influencing his mind control on all three of them. In order to cover up Unicron's deeds, Cyclonus and Scourge, who were under his influence, killed Shockwave and rose to the position of Decepticon leaders. This ferociously rekindled the stalemated Cybertronian conflict as Unicron expected. On the other hand, Death's Head managed to resist his mind control long enough for him to collaborate with the Autobots and thwart the turmoil that Unicron's schemes had brought. Death's Head then confronted Cyclonus and Scourge and pushed them through a time portal that Unicron had constructed, pledging to execute them later. The vortex launched Cyclonus and Scourge into the Cybertron's past, where they were placed under Scorponok's leadership. With Scorponok, Cyclonus and Scourge traveled to Nebulos. After Scorponok's defeat at the hands of the Autobot target masters, Cyclonus was chosen to be partnered with Nightstick by Vorath so that he could attempt to reverse engineer the Autobot technology. Now armed with superior technology, Cyclonus had a biomechanical recruit who could transform into his weapon and use two brains while fighting. Cyclonus's newly gained powers proved too formidable. However, Fortress Maximus defeated Cyclonus and similarly boosted the Decepticons. With subsequent battles, Cyclonus and Scourge followed the Autobots to Earth alongside Scorponok. There, they planned to meet Galvatron without any covertness. On his way, Cyclonus was confronted by human-commanded fighter jets. He reveled in the fact that he would get some target practice due to this. Nightstick, who was showing excitement to participate, was shunned by Cyclonus, who told him that he was simply a bystander. Eventually, Cyclonus was tricked into crashing, and Nightstick had to take over control. Upon meeting Galvatron, Cyclonus and Scourge confronted their previous leader and told him how they did not wish to serve him anymore. They even demanded his time travel device. Suddenly, they were ambushed by the Wreckers. Initially, Cyclonus fought Springer, but since they were heavily outnumbered, Cyclonus and Scourge transformed and escaped. Hoping to team up with Shockwave's forces, Cyclonus and Scourge were met with disappointment. It was because Cyclonus has accidentally mentioned how they would kill Shockwave in the future, and to ensure that the scenario never takes place, Shockwave sent a Megatron clone to deal with the two. Captured, Cyclonus, Target Master's partner, Nightstick, was crushed in front of him. Scourge made his escape while Cyclonus was begging for help, and soon Cyclonus' head was ripped from his body, resulting in his death. Due to a massive disturbance in the space-time continuum, Cyclonus' death 20 years before he was even born caused a rift to appear, which accelerated at an alarming rate, threatening to consume both the Earth and Cybertron.
You mean Galvatron? Hail Galvatron! Hail Galvatron! Hail Galvatron!
He was often seen in Transformers animated series, the Transformers cartoon. In 2006, Galvatron was rumored to be dead. Leaderless, the Decepticons were miserable and had low energon supplies. Seeing this, Cyclonus took charge and was determined to find Galvatron, believing he was still alive. Cyclonus followed his last trail to the world of Thrall. Scourge was able to confirm their fallen leader presence through his accelerated sight. Cyclonus then spoke to the surviving Decepticons as a beacon of hope, asking for the remaining energon supplies so that they could embark on this journey to locate and resurrect Galvatron. Upon reaching his destination along with some sweeps, Cyclonus saw how his fallen leader had gone insane. Galvatron had lost his mind due to intense radiation from the planet's plasma lava. Upon first sight, Galvatron brutalized Cyclonus, even though he had lost his sanity. Galvatron possessed enough power to make quick work of a space platform. After being talked down, Galvatron returned as Decepticon's leader, but upon making their way back, they saw how the remaining forces had allied themselves with the Quintessence. Galvatron gave his permission for the same, and the Alliance launched an all-out attack on Earth and Cybertron, but failed. By 2006, due to the shenanigans pulled by Quintessence scientist, Cyclonus was entrapped alongside Ultra Magnus and a couple of others. Due to some unforeseen events, the group was sucked into a black hole which led to a negative universe. To ensure their survival, the group had to work together begrudgingly. family. Going through their trials and tribulations together, Cyclonus and Magnus gained a certain amount of mutual respect for each other as warriors, but due to their differences after making it through to the two ensured each other that when they crossed paths on the battlefield next time, they would be enemies and not allies. During their many adventures together, Cyclonus proved his allegiance to his leader Galvatron. On one such occasion, when the Decepticons ran into an ambush by the Autobots and their shockingly returning leader, Optimus Prime, Galvatron was heavily wounded during the battle. Cyclonus was ready to risk his life in the name of Decepticons and was willing to face Optimus Prime in hopes of protecting his downed leader. But due to the sweeps making their escape out of fear, Cyclonus had to carry Galvatron with him and escape as well. Sometime after, Cyclonus and Scourge hid in a vortex to escape their assailants, who heavily outnumbered them. The vortex then teleported them to the planet of Padron. This planet was rich in Enjon and had been inhabited by Cybertronian refugees. Cyclonus then proceeded to conquer the planet and informed Galvatron of the same. Attempting to foil their plans, the Autobots battled against the Decepticons. The fight resulted in the destruction of Paradron itself. Soon after, Cyclonus infiltrated a Cybertronian airspace with a bunch of sweeps under his command. He did so to locate and punish the traitor named Octane, who was dealing with the Junkians and the Autobots by going against the Decepticons and the will of Galvatron. They found themselves following his trail into the abandoned Decepticon mausoleum, which was located under the planet's surface. Learning from Galvatron's leadership skills, Cyclonus threatened to kill the sweeps that were hesitating to go forward. During the manhunt, Cyclonus was shocked to see that his mission was interrupted by none other than Starscream's ghost. Eventually, Starscream's ghost possessed and overtook Cyclonus's body. Upon reawakening, Cyclonus found himself at the footholds of Galvatron's throne just after being blasted by his weapon. Apart from these events, Cyclonus was one of the mainstays of the animated series and therefore was a part of a plethora of other storylines. Some of the other storylines in the series involving Cyclonus that are noteworthy are those took place when he'd been turned into an energy vampire by the trans-organic dweller. He was thrown into the mouth of danger by none other than Galvatron, who with slight hesitation chose his survival over one of his most loyal subordinates. Cyclonus was also a victim of the universe-wide hate plague that had infected a bunch of Decepticons. During this time, Cyclonus took on the role of the leader of the infected Decepticons, and his mission was to hunt down Galvatron along with a surviving group of Autobots into the depths of Char. During this time, he also infected the scientist Jessica Morgan with the hate plague, much like the comic book arc for Cyclonus, where he became a target master through the amalgamation of himself and the biomech Nebulon Nightstick. The animated series followed a similar storyline. Here, Galvatron expressed his disgust towards Cyclonus and his decision to merge with one of the Nebulons. Cyclonus kept trying to persuade his leader to try it out for himself before they were interrupted by a group of Autobots. The Headmasters cartoon. Cyclonus and Scourge continued to make token appearances when the new Headmasters warriors arrived to dominate the Cybertronian conflict, but their intellect appeared to deteriorate significantly until they were nothing more than comic relief. The writers had decided to make them seem like clumsy henchmen, and it was abundantly evident through their actions. For example, when they were fighting Rodimus Prime during the assault on Planet Best, Cyclonus attempted to throw a boulder at Prime but inadvertently clobbered Galvatron instead and fled yelping in terror from his leader's wrath. Later, the pair totally foiled Six-Shot's strategy when they failed to recognize that he was the orchestrator and the brains behind it, and instead fought him with Trypticon as he was attempting to extract energy from 6 nations using each of his 6 modes.
The warrior and his armada. And this.
Cyclonus is also featured in the Transformers the movie. The year was 2005. Through the Decepticons' conquests of the Autobots' homeworld Cybertron, the conflict between the two sides had intensified. The Autobots had to confront a fate they were unaware of without Optimus Prime after a fight on Earth that claimed his life. After dealing with the failures of an unsuccessful attack on Autobot City, the Decepticons had no other choice but to escape. To ensure that they would be able to escape, the surviving Decepticons had to remove excess weight from their craft, even to reach Cybertron. In doing so, they chose the injured or dying Decepticons to be ejected. This included their commander Megatron, among other members. The greatest Transformer, a planet-eating monster known as Unicron, then took notice and transformed Megatron and a squad of the other abandoned Decepticons even more lethal fighters. This was the birth of Galvatron, Cyclonus, and Scourge. For Unicron's glory, Galvatron, along with his 2 trusted members, had to destroy the Autobot matrix of leadership, or Cybertron would be horribly destroyed. But according to Optimus Prime, one of the Autobots would rise above his station and harness the Matrix's might to bring light to Autobot's darkest hour. Hot Rod believed that by accepting responsibility for Prime's passing, he might be able to stop Unicron and change the course of the Cybertronian Wars. During the movie, Cyclonus started off as nothing but a loyal servant to Galvatron's will. He was a powerful warrior in his own right, and hence was the second in command to the seemingly unstoppable Galvatron. Cyclonus usually served as the personal transport for Galvatron as he would transform into an aircraft. He was the one whom Galvatron boarded to reach various locations, such as Starscream's coronation, the planet of junk, and also the Autobot city, where the battle was taking place. Even individually, Galvatron was capable of inflicting massive amounts of damage on his own enemies, but with Cyclonus on his side, no group of Autobots was able to stand against him until the arrival of Rodimus Prime. One of the significant battles that Cyclonus was responsible for was the face-off against Hot Rod, Quintessa, and Cup when he attacked their shuttle and crippled it. Although not much character development was witnessed in the case of Cyclonus in the movie, his presence was definitely a scary sight for the already underpowered and demoralized Autobots. The storyline inclines towards the timeline in the cartoon, which gave a bunch of new developments to the character, apart from simply making him Galvatron's blind puppet. He's been an integral part of various Transformer games, Cyclonus being one of the mainstay antagonists in the cartoons and one of the most famous action figures statistically, was destined to be featured in a bunch of the Transformers games that came after. One of the most widely known is the Transformers, which was released for the PlayStation 2. In the game, Cyclonus is accurately shown as Galvatron's second in command. He is one of the elite members of the Decepticons, but he is seen getting into arguments with Soundwave, who eventually tricks him into being punished for the failures that he is actually not responsible for. During the storyline, Cyclonus is one of the enemies that the Autobots face in the Atalstan gem mine. After he is defeated, he retreats and mentions how he has underestimated the power of the Autobots. In a conversation that follows between Rodimus and Optimus, they state how Cyclonus is a formidable warrior and really tough to bring down. Apart from this, Cyclonus is featured in Transformers Legends, among other titles such as Transformers Battle Tactics, Transformers Frontiers, Transformers Earth Wars, and Transformers Forged to Fight. He plays a similar role as one of Galvatron's elite members and a similar weapon arsenal in the game as well. Some of his abilities in Transformers Forged to Fight are, well, 1. Dark Energy. When Cyclonus is harnessing dark energy, he can increase his attack rating by 22 to 30% for 6 seconds. This also empowers his next ability, Dark Field. 2. Dark Field allows Cyclonus to deal pulsating damage to his enemies. It can also inflict Dark Burn, which deals massive damage and has a chance to nullify any enemy buffs. 3. Discipline. Using this ability, Cyclonus can gain a physical resistance buff for a considerable amount of time after being hit repeatedly. After landing repeated range shots, Cyclonus can gain a buff to his ranged damage. Finally, he can also gain a melee damage buff after landing 10 consecutive attacks on his opponent. 4. Cosmic Edge. Using this blade, Cyclonus gains complete armor-piercing capabilities. This blade is said only to be rivaled by the Star Saber. 5. Galaxy Gun. This is an unblockable attack, and it's described as a blast of cosmic proportions. 6. Interstellar Ride. In this special move, Cyclonus harnesses the dark energy and uses the dark field for 10 seconds, pulsating around his enemies. In this game, Cyclonus is best suited for close quarter combat. A player can make the best use of his dark field ability by staying close to his opponent and applying constant pressure. He is an excellent counter to buffs and such as resistant buffs or permanent damage buffs. He is also great against exo filters and security modules during raids. Conclusion. Overall, Cyclonus remains to be one of Galvatron's most trusted allies and subordinates. He's a masterful warrior in his own right and has been stated to be quite formidable on various occasions by Optimus Prime and Rodimus Prime. While the Decepticons are known for their treacherous ways and continuous deception, Cyclonus is a major exception. He has been a devoted member of Galvatron's team right from his birth and has never attempted to betray him in any way, even though Galvatron is far the most outstanding leader with his chaotic and ruthless ways of ruling. Cyclonus believes that he has a role to fill and he serves it with diligence. And if you liked our content, well, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.